Hello and welcome back to the Student StarCraft AI Tournament weekly broadcast. This is your host Nightcat, and we have a lot of recommended bot vs bot games, so we'll try and get through as many of the recommendations as we can today. Starting off, we have a game of Purple Wave spawning as the red Protoss at the top of Roadrunner, or top left of Roadrunner, going up against Monster, spawning as the yellow Zerg, down about the bottom left middle of Roadrunner. Now, Monster is a bot that, as Sanka stated in the last cast, is much newer to the scene and not much is known about it, but checking up on the SSCAIT page, there is some additional information that has come out since its first appearance on this cast. Some people have done some examination of the binary and determined that it's using BW API 4.2. It is written in C++. It uses Boem, which is the Brood War easy map. Yeah, easy mapping, I believe is what the acronym stands for. And it's not a fork of Microwave or McRave. And there is some information, well, some speculation on the potential name of the author, but I'll leave that out of this cast. If you want to check that out, you can check out the bot's page on the SSCAITournament.com webpage. But to this game at hand, I wasn't paying enough attention to see exactly what Monster went for, but we have our spawning pool and expansion hatchery at the natural. I was just checking to see we don't have Zergling speed, but we do have a fair number of Zerglings. There is one Zergling here checking out, along with the drone here, what Purple Wave is up to. Purple Wave managing to catch the drone scouting around. And it may not have seen the cybernetics core that is under production now. Hard to say if it did actually get to see that or not, since we are using OpenBW here for the cast. I do like to do these casts in remaster, but a lot of the times if a cast crashes in a remaster, it's just a hassle to have to then move over to OpenBW to cast it. So for this week, I would just be sticking with OpenBW. Plus, I don't know the propensity of Monster to break remaster in replays at this time, so I'll just be sticking with this for now. We do have a small engagement here outside of Monster's natural here. Purple Wave just kind of scoping out what's going on with his Zealot, seeing if he can break it or not. Wisely backing off here. These Hydralisks and Zerglings should be more than enough to deal with this army, even with the two Dragoons, which are not getting any shots off, finally getting a few shots off here. And I just noticed that the overlay may have been covering them up a little bit there. But now we've got Monster, maybe perhaps a little bit unwisely, chasing this army a little bit too far out. Now running back to the cover of the sunken colonies. There we go, back to the cover of the sunken colonies. Meanwhile, the second gas is being taken, and Purple Wave behind this contain, which isn't a very strong contain at the moment, but is doing the job, is getting his natural set up along with a another gateway, it looks like. So I think there'll be up to 5 gateways on 2 base. Well, 2 bases once that's natural is fully saturated. Monster with the nice wrap around here, although the units are being a bit indecisive. I thought maybe it was going to go for like a sneak attack to pull this contain away, or perhaps force this contain to run into the sunkens. Though a smarter play would probably be for Purple Wave to pull back, but it looks like that may have just been you know, something in the bot's logic to tell it, oh, so, you know, there's nothing here this way, move this way, and then but not actually be like a backstab attack. Which is something that as a human player, you know, a human player might do something like that, but we often don't see bots recognizing, you know, that, okay, this lane has a force I can't quite work through, but this other lane does not. But there are a couple of Dragoons here. Whoops, and I always can move that thing. Couple of units up there, though, that were easily handled by Monster. Monster going for the Hydra heavy build up against this Dragoon heavy build here for Purple Wave. I'm wondering if we're going to see some Storm, perhaps. That's typically, I think, what you would end up seeing the Protoss working toward in human Protoss versus Zerg in this type of setup. You'd get the Templar with Storm to kind of take out the groups of Hydras, but a lot of bot authors feel that that's less effective in the bot world because with an instant response to Storm appearing on the map, or like a storm being cast and appearing on the map, they can just spread their units out very quickly. Now we've just got more production going on. We do have the Spire coming up for Monster. So it looks like we are transitioning to Mutalisks. We are getting a macro hatchery as well, and perhaps another macro hatchery. So we're still stuck on 2 bases up against Protoss's 2 bases. Typically, as the Zerg, you would want to be up a base. The unit's kind of getting sandwiched here, not really utilizing the Sunkens very much, but now backing off into the Sunkens to utilize them. Purple Wave really shouldn't be pushing into this just yet, really needs to back off, but taking some losses. And now the Mutalisks are out, so I'm really interested to see how the Mutalisk play is here. I'm liking the grouping so far. Does seem to be trying to engage with the army, and not so much being used for harassment. But we are kind of sneaking out now. We've found a path, so it looks like it might have some level of threat awareness on those Mutalisks in terms of its pathing, but now this front is kind of getting overrun here a little bit by Purple Wave. But the Mutalisks are now kind of having to deal with the army and not really being able to harass as much, because Purple Wave was essentially knocking on the door, knocking out the Sunkens. I like the Sunken being placed back in the mineral line. That's going to be a little bit harder to hit for Purple Wave's units. We do have some harassment going on now with the Mutalisks, and Purple Wave's force was a little bit disjointed here because of this Mutalisk harassment that was going on, and so wasn't quite able to bust through the front door. And now the ground army for Monster is able to push its way out, get itself a little bit of space, but seems to kind of be reacting with the entirety of its army to threats on the ground. So essentially it pushed out here in this direction, and then because there was a Dark Templar near the front, the whole army came back this way to deal with that Dark Templar threat. Well, really, just a few units probably could have handled it. And then, you know, it could have kept that space, but it's able to get that space back pretty quickly here, it looks like, dealing with those Zealots and the Dark Templar. Meanwhile, there is a... Oh! Nice. I did not notice this, but... Oh, he's gonna... Okay, he's just patrolling, but Monster has some nice... It is getting its third now and has some nice burrowed units here, preventing Purple Wave from taking more expansions. So that's something that you don't see, and a very nice unburrow there and moving up the Zergling so that it can take its own base. So that's something that some... Oh, and we've transferred probes, oh no, to that base, but there's no nexus. I would have thought Purple Wave would have handled that, but to be honest, you don't see a lot of Zerg bots doing this, where they'll just burrow a single unit right at where you would build that nexus. And so I think because of that, Purple Wave just wasn't expecting to have to handle it. Although this is kind of interesting how they just weren't attacking that hatchery for a bit there. Perhaps worried about the Mutalisks overhead and if they were going to fire or not. Even with this, Purple Wave's not necessarily in a terrible position right now. He's managing to continue to deny expansions very quickly for Monster. So it's essentially still a 2-base against a 2-base game. And in that type of scenario, I would hedge my bets towards the Protoss, but the Protoss has really been losing a lot of units, which means he's been spending a lot of money. The main is already mined out, and you're just stuck with your natural. So the Zerg, but the Zerg's main's almost mined out as well. The natural is stuck in the low too. So depending on how this game goes, if Purple Wave can continue to deny expansions here, so we're going to deny this base down here, Purple Wave might be able to win this, but it's going to be tough, and the whole anti-air army is trying to go after this Mutalisk ball again. Doing some damage. I like the splitting of the Mutalisks there in response to the Corsair. Corsair does get caught, though, by a couple of Scourges, so that's unfortunate to see. That Monster is ahead in supply right now, which is what you want to see as a Zerg, but if Monster can just kind of take control of the middle here, and get itself a third and get it established, it's going to have very strong go here. And it looks like Purple Wave did manage to clear out that Zergling. I wonder if Purple Wave just at the time when I was looking at this before just didn't have observer tech yet, because there were no lurkers on the field yet. So, you know, a lot of bots, if you're a Protoss going up against a Zerg as a bot, the reason you're going to get observers is because of lurkers and not... Oh, nice Storms, beautiful. And good dodging there too. Not very many Zerglings died there. I would have expected more to go down, especially those were nicely placed Storms. Purple Wave still denied down here again. Might be able to deny up here. Does get his third established, so he's going ahead. He's taking out this base, but Monster is trying to expand in multiple locations to try and, you know, maximize the chances, I think, of at least one of the expansions surviving. But Monster has a really small army right now. Can't really afford to lose too many units. Purple Wave coming down here to this expansion. This feels like, you know, when I would play against the stock AI and on like Hunters or something like that, I'm like, I gotta expand because I'm running out of money, and the AI just keeps throwing units at your expansions. That's what this feels like Purple Wave is doing right now, just going after these expansions, but that's what he really needs to be doing right now. It needs to keep Monster from getting resources, and it's got this game. Especially, oh, and the drone train getting caught out in the middle, being taken out. Very nice catch there by Purple Wave, but now we've got another base up here. But with all of those drones gone, we've got only 13 workers right now. I don't know if the Zerg economy is going to be able to recover quick enough. So we've got multiple hatcheries out at multiple expansions, but we've got barely any army. We're down to 24 and a half supply. So I think at this point, we're at 66 minerals. We're not wanting to spend that on any more workers, it looks like. We've just got a few drones here and there mining. So yeah, I think this game is going to go to Purple Wave. Very nice game to watch, though. We'll go ahead and speed this up a bit until the end as Purple Wave works on the cleanup. And it makes me wonder, too, if Monster will have some sort of GG logic, because a lot of bots don't. There's always the chance that your opponent could crash when you're playing up against bots, and it does GG out and tap out. So that's cool to see. It's also very difficult to get that sort of timing or that logic right on, you know, when you should actually tap out versus when you shouldn't. So that was a great game there. Some 2 base versus 2 base stuck on, and I highly suspect that Purple Wave was stuck long distance mining that third, for as long as he was, just because it didn't have the observer tech. But I didn't take a peek into his base to see that for sure, but great game overall. For our second game here, we have Aileen as the orange Zerg at the top of Icarus, going up against Insanity Bot, blue Terran down at the bottom of Icarus, which Icarus, if I'm remembering right, is a 4-player map, and so we've got some scouting going on here in the initial stages. We'll go a little bit faster for the initial stages and try to catch what each bot is doing here. So if we look at production here, we've got barracks started. So supply depot, barracks, pretty standard opening for Insanity Bot here. We've got a, I believe that was a 12 hatch, followed by spawning pool for Aileen. So if I remember correctly, I believe Aileen, and we've got a macro hatch over here in the back, tends to, and we've got a fast, so this was a 1-racks expansion here with a bunker being set up, and a couple of drones chase the scout all the way back to the natural of Insanity Bot. Now the Zerglings are out. They could pretty easily do a run by here if they wanted to. We'll see if they choose to or not. Looks like they're not going to. They're going to respect the bunker and just kind of chill out here and scout out the front and see if Insanity Bot tries to do anything with moving out. Meanwhile, we have a Hydralisk den coming down, so it looks like we're going to see some type of 3-hatch lurker play perhaps from Insanity. Which isn't a bad response here, because you could try to just break this front. So far, there is no way for Insanity Bot to scout that lurkers are what's going to be coming up. Just waiting to watch for that lair to start, but we might not actually see that from Aileen, because I think Aileen is the bot that tends to sort of just mass, or no, I'm thinking of Aurelian Lament, I believe the name is, that just sort of mass expands, just constantly is streaming units in, if I'm remembering correctly. But so we've got both players content sitting on 2 bases. We do have turrets being set up, rather interesting position there. Not really defending this avenue from Mutalisks harass. Mutalisks harass could still pretty easily be done, and not quite defending the bunker from lurkers either. I think appropriately placed lurkers like out here would be able to hit this without being detected. But I do like that there are turrets here in the main, and I think we're starting to see bots placing turrets more due to the actual Mutalisks harass threat that essentially McRave Z brought to the field that had been missing for so long. Bots really didn't need to worry about getting properly timed turrets, or at least didn't have to worry so much about it, because, you know, if you marched forward with your army, the enemy bots would typically be focused on your army. But now it's something that more has to be respected. So it's good to see bots, you know, changing what they are doing in order to respect that. Meanwhile, while I've been blabbering on here, we've got a 3rd base set up here for Aileen. We've got the lair started, or finished actually now, built at the natural. So it now has lair tech. We'll see if it gets any... It is getting the lurker aspect, so that is good to see here. Let's see. Also, if the game noise is a little bit low, I do apologize. I'm trying to work out the balance here as I'm working through some games here to try and figure out a good balance between my voice, the background music, and the actual game audio. So we'll work through it this week, and you know, you can let me know in the comments, or if I'm there in the audience while the cast is live, how horrible of a job I've done at this. But no, so we've got now the Marine Medic Force moving out a bit, but really not in a good position. The timing of this is not the best for this push out, but going ahead, finding a unguarded expansion, Aileen just sort of letting that fall, but now this army is not going to be able to really retreat effectively because it is cut off. We do have to get a scan though. Nice targeting of the lurker. Managed to get 1 lurker down with the force, but the rest of the force falls. Really, if you're not pushing out early, you really want to wait until you have that science vessel. And it feels like that push came a little bit too soon. Like perhaps the tech for science vessels was there when that push went out, instead of waiting for the actual science vessel to pop. But a nice couple of lurkers getting caught out of position, able to take those out. Very nice. You want to keep those lurker numbers a bit low, and you want to keep the pressure up. 4 base to 2 base Terran. You might want to see the Terran start to try and not lose units like this, and not throwing away your scans, but you kind of want to see the Terran just start to try and give himself some space and apply a little bit of pressure, so that way he can expand behind that. Don't see a 3rd coming up though, unfortunately, for Insanity Bot, so hopefully we're going to see that soon here. But really just trying to push more and more up this middle. I'm not sure if Insanity Bot is aware of the number of expansions, but now we do have Hive Tech out. We have the Ultralisks. We're getting Devourers to deal with the swarm of science vessels here. I do like the Irradiate on the Ultralisk there. Very nice move, and now that Ultralisk should just go basically suicide itself into the enemy. It's a pretty... Well, I mean, it did survive the Irradiate. But now we do have this push here into the natural, and Aileen just doesn't have an army. It's got all these bases and all of this production, but it doesn't have the larva to produce. So Insanity Bot's just able to march in here. I did not expect this, but yeah, it just did not have larva, which really, as Zerg, that is your 4th, or rather your 4th resource. So you've got gas, you've got minerals, and you've got supply. and then a Zerg, you've got larva, and I think that's what happened there. If we look Aileen with 5,000 minerals banked, that could just be so many Zerglings if you've got the larva for it, which, like, looking at it, just did not have. I don't think we can see the larva units here in the display, but yeah, just didn't have the ability to produce enough to stave this off. So in the end, well played by InsanityBot, being able to take advantage of that and march through the natural, destroy the hive, and just march into the main and take it out. Good game. And for game number 3 today, we have Gooeybot spawning as the blue Protoss on the left of Heartbreak Ridge, going up against Brian Weber on the right as the orange Zerg on Heartbreak Ridge, which I've already said the name of the map. So we've got another Protoss versus Zerg. I believe both bots are toward the mid tier on yellow, I want to say, just off the top of my head. So it should be a fun game of two bots that are close to each other in terms of skill level. I'll bring up the production view window just to keep an eye on what both bots are doing. We've got the scout, very early scout from Gooeybot, even before building a pylon, which is going to cost it some mining time, which is a little bit surprising, but we do have the hatch first, the 12 hatch for Brian Weber, followed up by the spawning pool. So we're seeing a similar build here where it is hatchery and then spawning pool. And then I would suspect, yep, we are probably going to see the gas get taken here very soon. Would have been kind of funny to see a gas steal there by Gooeybot, had the minerals for it, but we don't see it in the end. And now the drone that was sitting there to build that gas has gone off to chase this probe, which is, I don't think what Brian Weber wanted to have happen. I'm going to keep an eye on when this gas actually gets taken. If it's after this probe dies, then I'm thinking, yeah, that's probably a problem. Now, we do have a Forge First Fast Expand here, it looks like, for Gooeybot, which is something you standardly see against Zerg. And there are other variants as well to that fast expansion. Sometimes you can get away with getting your Nexus before getting the Forge. So I'm really curious. This drone's going to come around here and build this extractor. Yep, so that was a case. That drone was sitting there waiting to build that extractor. And then, oh no, look at all of the minerals that have been bleeding up because of that. Where we've just sat not getting anything because we didn't have the gas. So that could be one of the challenges with, you know, building a bot to follow a script, like a scripted build order, essentially. If one thing goes haywire in the build order, well, now your bot's just doing nothing for a while sometimes. But now that we've got that gas, we should start to see the bot come to life. We do have Corsair, or not Corsair's coming out just yet, but we do have the Stargate coming out for Gooeybot, so we're going to see, I think, some pretty standard Protoss play coming out here. The Gateway is complete, and we don't have a Corsair under construction, which is a little bit puzzling to me, especially because right now it could have completely owned the Zerg with it, but we do have it under construction now. The Spire is coming up for the Brian Weber, though, so Brian should be able to defense this relatively quickly, although the Spire obviously is a bit late, but so was the Corsair. Corsair going to take out these forward, this forward rather. I thought there might be more. Scouting Overlord with impunity, but now we've got the Mutalisks coming out, and they should be able to fend off the couple of Corsairs that we've got here. Maybe see a couple of Scourge come out, maybe not. Looks like we're just getting pure Mutalisk right now. We are getting an Overlord, so we're supply blocked at the moment, but we should be okay. Nice, no real micro from either of the bots there. And then this just letting free shots happen. Really should be engaging perhaps some issues there with the micro. You can sometimes end up canceling attacks when you're trying to do real fancy micro with your units, you know, having them turn too soon before the attack actually goes off. It looks like that's what might be happening here, because you could be taking plenty of pot shots on these Zealots, and now that they're away from the cannon, we're getting those shots off. But we do have this push coming here by Gooeybot. We do have a nice number of sunken, so I don't think this push is going to get very far, even if it makes it all the way to the natural, which it does not. But picking off a Scourge and an Overlord there by the Corsairs, nice to see. We got a little bit of a one-on-one here while we've got the Clouds fighting down here. But the Mutalisk Cloud is rather large, very nice to see. And I do like this wall here that's being created by Gooey Bot to stop the Zerglings from rushing in to deal with the cannons. We do have Observer Tech, and it looks like Templar Tech coming down now, so perhaps we'll see some High Templars soon, but really not enough Corsairs, I think, to deal with this Mutalisk Cloud. And it looks like the Corsair production has stopped. Now, granted, I think we are supply blocked now with those losses of the pylons. I'm not quite sure if that is particular targeting of the pylons or not, because now we're just kind of having some, just attacking whatever is closest. But if that initial attack on the pylon was targeted, that's cool to see. Because pylons, they only have 300 shield, 300 health, so they're a pretty light target compared to something like a gateway. And if you can take them out, then that gateway is unpowered, as well as you're attacking the supply of the Protoss, so they can be pretty high value targets at some points. I think the Mutalisk Cloud probably has this game pretty well in hand rather. And you see the probes trying to run to a third that was built up here. Some of them got caught, but really Brian Weber not worrying too much. He did expand behind this. There was a bit of a fight over here, I think, with some zealots that may have been missed. But the Mutalisks have just stayed in Gooeybot's main here. And I don't think there's much that Gooeybot is going to be able to do. We'll speed it up just a little bit. We do have, and then we'll come back down because we do have Psy Storm. There was a High Templar out. I thought maybe we'll see a Cold Storm. Looks like Brian Weber was able to prevent that from happening, though. And we just have sort of the slow death by, what is it, Wave Glurm or Glurm? Worm Glurves or Glaives? Worm Glaives, I think they're called. I forget exactly what the projectile from the Mutalisks are called. But we just have the slow death from those bouncy things, we'll call it for now. And I'm just kind of watching the minimap to see if anything else is happening, if we have any other expansions going on, but really we just have sort of units flooding in. I wonder if there's anything in the shuttle. Probably not. It does look like we maybe got another Corsair when we had the supply for it, but now again we are supply blocked, and we just keep trying to build in this main that has this pesky Mutalisk infection that we can't quite get cleared up. And so with that, I think Brian Weber is going to take this game. We do have some cannons being built in the main now that the cannons at the natural have been killed, but the natural has just been overrun here. Templar are falling. Well played here, despite that initial tripping on the Vespene Geyser there by Brian Weber, able to still come back with some strong play with the Mutalisks. Excellent game, well played. And all that's left is this top left, which has now been found by chasing the shuttle. GG. For our next game here, we have a Zerg versus Zerg here, where we've got Microwave spawning as the red Zerg at the top of Destination, going up against Monster, spawning as the yellow Zerg down at the bottom of the map. And I suspect that we're going to have a lot of recommendations with Monster, probably for the next few weeks. Mainly just, with it being the new bot, it's very exciting. People are very excited to, see games with it, see how their bots compete against it, see how, good bots will perform against it, especially because I believe its ELO rating is up into an A- already, and it just came onto the scene on the 17th, so very exciting to see a strong bot come out of nowhere and really shake things up a bit here. So looks like we've got similar openings from both bots. We've got the geysers and then the spawning pools coming down here, and looks like Monster managed to get their spawning pool a bit quicker than Microwave, and we're not getting any upgrades yet at the moment, but we are going straight to Lair Tech for Microwave. Pretty risky move here. These Zerglings are gonna come here, I think, just about as this first set finishes. And Monster sees those Zerglings finish and backs off. Doesn't want to engage right now. Could have, with the larger numbers, done some damage here, but really you could pull a few drones off to even things out. And while you'd suffer some economic damage, you do have the defender's advantage. Probably not going to be able to close out a game, so really Monster just going for the longer term play here. Getting an Overlord. Let's see, we are getting a Spire for Microwave, a very quick Spire here. Nice little battle there, and of course, like I said, the drones pull off to sort of even those numbers out before the Sunken finishes, and able to just sort of push that back. And Monster also getting their Spire, but their Spire is going to be later. Or actually, just about at the same time. It looks like, really, I think that late spawning pool, or that spawning pool that was later than Monster's, may have slowed things down a bit here for Microwave. Because really the bots are essentially in the same position here now, with the same buildings just about, except no Sunken here. And now we are getting an evolution chamber for Monster, so that we can get the spore colonies up, which we're not seeing from Microwave, so we do have a little bit of divergence in what each bot is doing here. Now the Mutalisks are out for Microwave before Monsters, well, maybe at about the same time, but Microwave had more, I think, on the field first, chasing these down. And now this, oh, they got the Sunken instead of the spore colony. I thought that was going to be a spore colony, but we do now have a Sunken out. The Zerglings there of Microwave were kind of left undefended. The Mutalisks being chased back, although the Mutacloud for Microwave is a little bit larger than the Mutacloud for Microwave here, chasing them all the way now back to their beginning, or to their main rather, but they do have the spore colony that they can fall back to, which I don't think... Oh, okay, we do have the evolution chamber now. We are getting a spore colony for Microwave to fall back to if need be. And Microwave is also expanding here, while Monster is kind of pushed back into its main here. It's also limited to on Larva, like we saw in an earlier game, where Zerg was kind of just stuck on its macro because of the restricted larva count. So when Microwave can get that natural up, that's going to be a huge benefit, not only in resource gathering, but also just in the ability to produce units. We are seeing a macro hatch come down, which seems like a good response here by Monster. You're contained, but you can't be broken yet. So, you know, get that production capability up, build up your economy on this one base for now. And then hopefully you'll be able to bust this contain and have a pretty powerful force to take your opponent out, or at least establish a foothold that's larger than what you currently have on the map. And so, not a whole lot going on at the moment between these two. Microwave is both kind of macroing at the moment, building up their economy. Now we are seeing some military production start for Monster, and Monster is now chasing Microwave back to the natural here, which does not have a spore colony yet, which could cost Microwave a bit here. The Zerglings were picked off. Mutaclouds are battling here. But Microwave able to handle the Mutalisks of Monster. I'm not sure if that started to even strength or not, but Microwave able to push that back without the use of a spore colony, but still not strong enough to really break this. So really, Microwave just needs to keep Monster contained, keep your Mutaclouds larger, and deal with any sort of push out from Monster. Our Monster's getting a third macro hatchery here, and so Microwave's just gonna, you know, do the same, get a third hatchery. But he has the advantage of having two bases, so he's got a larger income, but not really able to spend it. As you can see, he is banking quite a few minerals and gas. I mean, that's about 6 Mutalisks right there that could be out on the field, or morphing to be out on the field. And now Monster's Mutacloud is larger. We've got 8 to 5, but going for the main instead of the natural here, trying to take out the drones where it can, but not really able to do a whole lot of damage there, and being forced out. Probably could have, well, actually the natural does have a spore colony now that I think about it, so that really, going for the natural versus going for the main, not a big difference there. Just nowhere to really do a whole lot of damage. Now going for this, for a double expansion here, it looks like Microwave really needs to try and take one of these out at least. Was doing some fighting there, but really being a bit hesitant here, but now going after this third Monster, sort of just using that as a distraction, it looks like, allowing that to be taken out. But now it really needs to keep this natural alive. Oh, tried to get a building down, but it was so low health that it was actually able to be killed instead of canceled. Now sort of forcing this Mutacloud back. We do have the larger number of Mutalisks for monsters still. Currently, we are starting to see some Scourge come out now for Microwave, so they might be able to absorb some of those shots from the Mutalisks, but kind of getting some caught out of position there. Not going to help your Mutalisk count in the fight. Going after has enough to actually engage with the Spore Colonies to potentially take them out, but now with the Mutalisks getting into the mix, being forced to back off a bit here, the Muta count is quickly falling for Monster, down to 11 right now. Oh, and actually we can see the larva in these counts, which means that in that other Zerg game, the Zerg really did have no larva. They were immediately spending them. Now the Zerglings are able to come in here, help clean up this natural, and Monster is again back on one base. This is exactly what Microwave needed to do. Took me a second since both bots' names start with an M. Now we've got the Monster again just back into one base, dancing its Mutalisks here. And Microwave going for the Greater Spire. I don't know that you really need to tech to that at this point. Really, it's just, you know, out macroing your opponent, just stopping them from getting any bases, waiting until they bleed their resources dry, or you become strong enough to really push through. I don't know that you need to tech to Hive in this sort of situation, or spend the resources teching, and then possibly switching some of your Mutalisks like it is now to Devourers, but even if it's not necessarily needed, I don't think Monster is in a position where this move is actually going to cost Microwave the game. Though we do have very large Zergling armies on both sides, but Microwave still just with the larger army, 50 or so Zerglings. Although the Mutalisks now are going down, but that's because we also have the 4 Devourers now, or 5 Devourers rather. So it'll be interesting to see how Microwave really engages to try and crack this natural. Looks like we might be getting a 4th base as well for Microwave, and we're getting a lot more Devourers for some reason, which is really going to hurt Microwave's ability to deal with this ground army. I mean, sure, the Devourers are going to handle the Mutalisks, but if they attack, which they're not doing right now, they're just sort of offering themselves up, and now they're attacking. And those Acid Spores are going to slow down the attacks, but there's this large Zergling army that really is being handled by Microwave's production that he has available to him. But now these Devourers are just in the main, but really at this point I don't think it matters too much. It does look a bit silly on paper, but really Monster just doesn't have the income to replace these Mutalisks. If you kill these Mutalisks, it's pretty much the game for Microwave. And Microwave denying the space over here, gonna come back in and deny this space now, trying to get the Spore Colonies up, but I don't think it's going to be able to get them up in time. Yeah, trying to morph them now, but going ahead and canceling. And then I really liked how the Zerglings switched from attacking that creep colony that was morphing when it canceled and was really low hit points to going to the other one that was doing it. It did it again with that one. So that's beautiful micro there to watch. Well played game by Microwave here. Again, I don't think the Hive tech was necessarily needed, but in the end, doing that tech switch didn't, well, not switch, but doing that tech didn't really hurt Microwave in the end. So Microwave's still going to pull out the win here. And the poor Overlord's just getting acid spored here. They don't have an attack to slow down, but their shame, but their honor certainly can be hurt here. And so now it's just for Microwave to macro and clean up this main and actually, very nice note here, doing the long distance mining on this bottom left with these blocking minerals mined out, so kind of cute to see. A well played game here by Microwave, taking the win. Our next game for today's cast, we have Cubot spawning as the purple Zerg at the bottom left of Fighting Spirit, going up against Casebot, the white Terran, on the bottom right of the map. And we have a very quick scout by Casebot, which, again, typically in standard play, you're not going to see a scout that's quite that quick. I don't suspect we're going to see cheese, though. Typically in a human game, you would see that SCV go out right away if you were going to see like a BBS or something like that. But just knowing Casebot, I don't think we're going to see that from him. Now we do have a spawning pool first, which is I don't think something that we've seen yet today from our Zerg players. Let's go ahead and get the production tab up. Meanwhile, back home at Casebot, we are getting a barracks and a supply depot. So let's see what our bots are gonna do here. So we are getting the hatchery, we're getting more drones. So I'm not sure why we got the spawning pool exactly if we're not using it right now. Could have got the hatchery sooner. It's possible if there was some scouting that happened here that maybe the spawning pool was built just in case. It needed to pop out Zerglings, and then it saw, okay, well, I'm not going to be under pressure, so I don't need the Zerglings right away. But typically you're going to make that assumption. Either I'm going to get Zerglings right away to deal with any potential early pressure and or to pressure my opponent, or I'm going to get that hatchery first in order to get my macro going and my economy going a little bit faster. And now we do have the Zerglings chasing the SCV here around, which nicely kites here behind the mineral line. And we are getting just some more SCVs and firebats now for Cazobot, which does have the bunker up and some marines. So we got a very quick academy on one barracks. And now that the SCV has, that pesky SCV has been taken care of, we are going to the wrong main. So I'm assuming then that actually no scouting has been done, and Cubot has not found them yet. Now, by process of elimination, I'm willing to bet this was scouted, and this, based on the direct trajectory of that overlord. And now we found our opponent. So rushing in here to try and take out that firebat and see if we can take this out, focusing on the medics. I'm just trying to do some unit damage, I take it then, but that's a lot of Zerglings lost. Probably would not have been able to take out the bunker either way, though. Nice pull of the SCVs there by Cazobot. Now we're going ahead and we're getting a factory, we're getting a engineering bay. So it looks like we're getting just some one base play here, but not very macro heavy from Cazobot. Though now it is moving out, perhaps we will see an expansion as soon as the units move out of the way. Now we're kind of dealing with a couple of Zerglings here while this bunker is building. Might not have... Oh, and okay, a couple of Marines are able to get into the bunker in time to hold these Zerglings off. I like the targeting of the medics and now of the SCVs, getting that economic damage in as well as just trying to stop them from repairing. And I wonder if that bunker is in the way or if we just don't... No, we have the resources. It's 400 for a command center. So I'm thinking that that bunker may be ill-placed by Cazobot, preventing him from actually taking its natural. Now we do have the lair up and a third base for Cubot. And tanks are now out for Queso. So we're going to need to see some level of tech here from Cubot. I mean, we do have the lair, but now the Zerglings might get enough Zerglings. You might be able to overrun this. Actually, I think at this point, yeah, they are the fast Zerglings, fast moving ones. Not cracklings yet. You can't get that until you get Hive. Yeah, just kind of throwing units into the fray here, keeping the army count down for Cazobot. Now Cazobot kind of trying to move out here, but still no command center down here. So I really think that this bunker is blocking it from taking that natural. But now it is doing a small push here with the firebats leading the way. Nice to see, doing a lot of heavy damage there. Heavy losses on the Zerglings. That drone just kind of going out doing its thing and getting shot up. Cazobot looks to be heading to the expansion over here, so probably scouted it with a scan. Might be able to take it out. Cubot's army is out of position here instead at the natural, so this base is going to fall uncontested. Kind of a weird building placement there. I don't know why there was a partially built barracks and engineering bay there. But yeah, I think Cazobot may have bugged out a bit here. And now just a large Zergling count coming in for the attack with the army coming up behind it. Gonna take these Zerglings out. Speed things up just a little bit here. Keeping an eye on the production tab as well. So we've just got a bit of a silly army trading going on here. Overlord getting taken out because it's still slow. Expansion in the middle of the map. Not quite what you want to see. We do have this expansion up here for Cubot, though. But casebot just a very large mineral and gas buildup. I'm suspecting that kind of like we saw happen to Brian earlier in the cast here, where the gas was delayed because the gas builder was distracted. I think because we can't get this natural here, casebot is just not going to expand its macro capabilities beyond what it currently is, and so therefore we're just going to kind of see this limited production in this mineral buildup here and gas buildup here by Queso. So we'll just kind of speed things along here a bit because we're just basically seeing a lot of the same continue to happen here. We're seeing more buildings try and be placed out here, so casebot maybe trying to build up its macro, but for whatever reason it's doing it out in the middle of the map instead of protected in its main. And so I'm wondering though if Cubot's going to change its army composition. It's just been Zerglings for quite some time, a surprisingly long amount of time, and on 3 bases. If it doesn't change its production, it might eventually win because Cubot's mined out, although I think it's going to do... Oh no, it's not doing long distance mining now. It is just attacking with everything that it has, including the SCVs. It feels like it's thrown in the kitchen sink. This might spell the end of Cubot because it never transitioned to anything beyond the Zerglings and the Lair Tech, which is unfortunate to see. But the natural has fallen, and now the main, I think, is going to fall here. The SCVs that were leading the charge have just kind of decided to chill out, relax. They're like, the army's got this. We don't need to be involved. And with that, a game that looked like Cubot was going to be able to win, thanks to this issue here at the natural for casebot, very quickly turns around casebot's favor. Casebot, though, now cleaning up this middle base. Needs to come back and finish up this main, though. And here comes the army to do just that. GG. Good game by both bots. A little bit of silliness from both of them, but still, good game for a couple of close opponents here. And for our last game for today's cast, we have Crazio spawning as the brown Terran at the top of Python, going up against Monster, the white Zerg spawning in the middle left of the map. So this will be a fun game, two really strong opponents going up against each other. So let's see what they are going to do. Looks like we are getting a pretty standard opening from Crazio here. Lately, I think it's, well, maybe it's not Crazio in particular, but I've started to become accustomed from doing these casts to seeing BBSs in the middle of the map. And so I'm happy to see when Terran is opening a bit more normally, and I think against Monster you probably need to. And so we do have the scout drone being chased here. We have the expansion, the natural coming down, as well as a macro hatch, it looks like, for Monster, all before gas, so not going for a fast gas at all here, just going for that production capabilities as well as the economy here with taking the natural. Crazio, meanwhile, is doing a 1 racks fast expand here with a bunker placed pretty far out in the front, but this is where the choke is for Python, so kind of makes sense, but does leave you pretty wide open to run bys if your opponent so chooses. Let's see, so now we've got the gas and we've got Lair coming down for Monster. We don't have speed yet for the Zerglings, but really no need for that right now. You're going to save that gas that you're getting from your 1 geyser, getting your 2nd gas now. I'm going to go ahead and throw drones on that. Probably, most likely, I would suspect that we're going to see a Spire come down. Nice getting the creep colonies here, and I expect Monster to not morph them just yet, and it is morphing them early. Okay. I was hoping to see it keep those as creep colonies until it absolutely needed to morph them, but these are kind of close positions for Python. It's not a whole lot of distance, basically just this here between the two bases, so I probably do need to morph those a little bit early. And actually, I just noticed the sound isn't working at all right now. Hold on, let me see if I can... Let's refresh this real quick here. See if we can get sound back in the game. Now we'll just kind of jump to where we were. There we go. We've got sound again. Alright, and we're back. So, looks like Monster has a bit more of a presence on the map than just a few moments ago. But still just sitting out front, waiting to see, poking in a little bit, seeing what the Terran has, and then backing off a little bit, and respecting what they have there. Taking an expansion at the main. I like to see that going for the main, because then that gives you another natural that you can just pretty easily take without too much risk. Because you're just moving that front forward a little bit, as opposed to essentially having to create a whole new exposure point that you have to defend. You're just sort of moving your front from one point to another that's a little bit more forward. Now we do have Mutalisks out. We'll see what kind of harass they try to do here. So we've seen McRave Z's Mutalisk harass against Terrans. Now we'll see monsters and a lot of bots that play Zerg that are really strong start with the letter M, and it just throws me off sometimes. But engaging with the Marines here, trying to look for a way in, doesn't really have a good opportunity. You can maybe do a little bit here, but pretty decent turret placement, although these turrets are rather exposed. These outward turrets could probably be picked off once your Mutalisk cloud gets large enough, but the trick is you got to get your cloud large enough. Now we do have stim. I don't see tanks yet, but it looks like we are researching something in the machine shop. I'm not seeing... Oh, vulture speed. So we're getting vultures. Okay, and we are getting some Goliaths to deal with the Mutalisks. So we're not going SK style here. We are going with like an M&M/tech mix, it looks like, but I suspect with us only having 2 barracks still on these 2 bases, we're probably going to see a heavy switch into tech at some point here. And now we are getting the tanks out. Mutalisks cloud sitting at about 15, so we could start sniping off these turrets if we wanted to, but there are some Valkyrie here to try and deal with the Mutalisks. So, and here we go. Starting, should have gone in for the 3rd and 4th shot, would have taken that turret out, but decides to back off. And that's one of those points where it's hard to decide, you know, is it good to continue to commit to this attack on this building, or should I back off? That's one of the struggles with that Mutalisk harass as a Zerg. And we are getting a 4th base now, oddly enough, at the mineral only instead of at the natural. And we are here trying to deny this 3rd Crazio, moving his army out a bit, trying to keep this 3rd from falling. Looks like he's going to be able to keep it up. Really, Monster wants to keep that 3rd, but also wants to keep the Terran at home, giving him enough time, or giving it enough time, rather, to expand and build up its tech. Now diving in and going after the turrets. Not that the army was out of it. Could have taken the turret out, but not doing so. Deciding instead to back off. Really, this would have just been one more shot. Probably would have lost a lot more Mutalisks there, but just sort of following this cloud around now. It is 22 Mutalisks strong, which is a pretty strong cloud of Mutalisks to see. I do like the little bit of splitting up that they are doing, and then the one gets irradiated and gets pulled out of the mix immediately, trying to move over to take this 3rd again, but really being pushed back by the strong Mutalisks here. A lot of production here of Marines and Vultures for Crazio. There's a 2nd cloud here, it looks like, so we've kind of got 2 Mutalisk clouds at the moment. One that's dealing with the bases. Police, yes, took out the turret. I'm sorry, I'm just happy to see good Mutalisk control here by the bots, because it's something that we've been direly needing in the bot scene for quite some time. We are getting some mines out, but decent control there by the Zerglings to deal with it. It is interesting to just sort of observe what the Zerglings are doing. They're all changing the direction in unison. Going after the third, again, denying it one more time. Looks like we are now getting this natural here, so we are taking another base. Want to take a quick peek into see if we are... Okay, so we are on Hive Tech. We've got actually 2 spires. I missed the second one being built for those upgrades. A lot of Mutalisks being made here. I'm wondering if we will see a tech switch into the more of the Hive for techs at some point, where we'll get the Filers and or Ultralisks. Would be amazing to see that tech switch. Probably going to need it at some point here to deal with the Terran Turtle, but Crazio really still just trying to get a third base established somewhere, just not quite able to do so. The Mutalisks are doing a ton of harass. Right now, Monster does not need to switch tech at all. They just kind of needs to keep Crazio on his heels, keep him from taking that third, but he does have a strong army at 173. You're going to need that Hive Tech eventually. Large Zergling force here dancing, kind of neat to watch it, how it all just uniformly changes direction on that mini-map there. Now, Monster taking over where Crazio wanted to take his third, and I think at this point this has kind of pushed Crazio to the edge of, you know what, I've just got to push at this point. I'm not getting a third, I'm not establishing an economic foothold. I just need to move forward with my army. My opponent has not teched to Hive yet, so I'm feeling like I can, or at least has not shown any Hive tech yet, so I feel like I can push forward on this, and it's working for Crazio. This is exactly what Crazio needed to do. Just put pressure on the Zerg, and now at this point, Crazio getting harassed a bit here at the natural by the Mutalisk. I like that the Mutalisk cloud did not come to deal with this, and it is instead just, you know what, you're going to leave this cloud alone, I'm going to just bother you with it then. Which is really cool to see that squad working independent of the Zerglings here, because a lot of the times you'll see, the entire army have the same goal, whereas this is sort of working on separate goals. Now that the natural has fallen, the Mutalisks are forced to fall back, sort of try to deal with this, but there are a large number of science vessels as well as Goliaths able to kind of push that back, and now deciding, okay, that base is lost, but you're not pushing into my main, I'm going to go ahead and attack you. Not being very successful with it, but Crazio behind this attack hasn't been able to establish another base, which is going to be a problem, especially he's out of money. At this point, I think Monster is going to take this game, but valiant effort by Crazio if he's not able to pull this off. And really just beautiful Mutalisk control. Could still be a little bit better in its decision making, but it's still worlds apart from what we've seen in the scene for quite some time. And now Crazio's army being forced to sort of fall back and try to deal with these Mutalisks, but even if he does at this point, it's just not going to be enough to, I think, really turn the tide. You're long distance mining at this point against an opponent that's still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bases. I think this game is going to go for Monster in the end, but we will still continue to watch to the conclusion as we do on these casts. The SCVs are getting picked off by the Mutalisks here. The Vultures trying to do what they can, but they cannot fire their little grenades up. And now the SCVs being cleaned up. And so at this point, nice spread there when one of the Mutalisks, and another nice spread there when the Irradiate is going off. And very well played game by both bots. I loved seeing that push by Crazio when Monster took the third, but just did not have the resources to continue the production, to continue that push. And Monster, in the end, able to win it on lair tech, essentially. And I heard some broodlings happen there. I would have loved to see what Monster could do with some hive tech, but it looks like either it just felt like it didn't need to do that this game, or it's not in the bot. Either way, a great game and a great way to end this cast. I want to thank everybody for tuning in and watching and supporting the community, and to all the bot authors, thank you for all of the recommendations. I was not able to get to all of them today, but again, thank you. Please continue to submit them. As casters, it makes our job a heck of a lot easier when we have games lined up for us to do and for the cast, as opposed to having to hunt them down ourselves. But again, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Have a great one. Stay safe, everyone.